The goal of today's presentation is to get you familiar with the basics of the Social Security system, um, hopefully communicate the value of Social Security and why Social Security is such an incredible part of your actual retirement. So first of all, I'm going to ask Vanya, can you see my slides there okay? Before I go to the full screen? You can? All right, great. So I'm finally learning after 5, 6 years here how to use Zoom properly. I'm sure Vanya shares some of that same sentiment. And again, I apologize about my voice. I had a little bit of a cold over the weekend, and it seems to have stolen my voice with it. So my wife was happy about that, but it makes it a little difficult um, for presentations. So please bear with me. Also, up in the top caption, you'll find a list of all the participants here and a place where you can share a chat with me or chat to the group or a private chat. Please feel free to use that chat box to ask a question either directly to me, or if it's nothing personal nature, I'd appreciate if you share it to the group. That way, maybe we can answer some questions all together. All right. So without further ado, let's jump into the basics here of Social Security, and let's see if we can understand exactly, or together, I can help communicate the value of Social Security and why it's such an important part of your retirement, and most importantly, why you should be making the correct decisions within Social Security. All right, so here's the problem. Well, first of all, let me take a step back. We do, so ever since Suzanne Chaffee was here, I began of her asking, she asked me, I should say, to split Social Security into two different presentations because it tended to be an hour, 10 hour, and 15-minute presentation if we included both at the same time. And we had a lot of people that, needed to head back to work or needed to get somewhere because they were watching during their lunch hour. So I've since split it into what we call Social Security 101 or basic Social Security. And then in the second part, Social Security Part 2, or what I call advanced Social Security, I cover some very specific strategies, some rules of thumb, and some things to think about on a personalized basis. And then, of course, you are always free to either email me or call me about your individualized questions. If you don't want to share with the group, I'm happy to do that. So what's the big problem with Social Security? That people are essentially hurting their retirements by making terrible, costly decisions about Social Security. Why would there be such a thing as a terrible and costly decision within Social Security? Simply, I think the biggest thing is that people misunderstand the actual value of it, and particularly as a resident of California, understanding the value that each dollar of Social Security has in comparison to a dollar out of your 403B, 457, or rental income, or any other type of strategy for retirement distributions. So, or even your pension for that matter. Things to know about Social Security: you have many claiming options, right? Decisions have far-reaching consequences. What does that mean? It's not just for you, but potentially a decision that's made for both spouses if you are married or have a partner, a legal partner, because the higher earning spouse certainly needs to make a decision, or in my opinion, should make a decision based on both persons in the relationship and not just themselves. The system is not bankrupt. Often you'll hear, oh, Social Security's going bankrupt. It's a bankrupt program. No, it's not. The reason is because folks like most of you that are still working, or Vanya and myself still working, we are putting money into the Social Security system on a monthly basis, and that money is immediately being turned around and given to beneficiaries that same month. As long as there are people working in this country and paying their Social Security taxes, then there will always be a source of revenue for the beneficiaries that have earned their Social Security benefit through their work history and are of the age where they can claim it. Remember, the benefits likely helped a family member, not just yourself. And I think most importantly, friends aren't experts. I've even found, I've lectured on Social Security to AARP, I've lectured on it to groups of CPAs, I've lectured on a group to financial advisors, people in my same industry, to attorneys. And what I found is there is a lot of misinformation, which seems to be a very popular word nowadays, but there is or are a lot of misinformation out there regarding Social Security. And I think a lot of it has to do with word of mouth, or this happened, or quite frankly, some of the people at the Social Security Administration aren't the most talented folks when it comes to explaining your benefits. And more importantly, no matter how friendly and nice they are, many of them, there's some facets within Social Security, like the cost of living adjustment, that they cannot sit there and predict a future number for you, whereas my assessments and my analysis can. So that being said, let's jump into it. Will Social Security be there for me? I'm going to answer that today by going through some of the specifics from the Social Security, or what's called the OASDI Trust Fund report. Comes out every October. This is the earliest we've ever done the Social Security 101. So I don't have the COLA for next year. The cost of living adjustment is what COLA stands for. But I do have the prediction, which has been pretty accurate for the last couple of years. And right now it's predicted to be 2.5% for 2024. What does that mean? That means starting January 1st of 2025, Social Security benefits will go up by 2.5% for every beneficiary of Social Security, whether you are taking it or not. How much can I expect to receive? This is a component of two different things through your lifetime, and I'll go over exactly what you need to look at to ensure that you're getting the max amount of benefit that you should be getting. This is a pension, just like your UCSD one. I will tell you it's worth more than your UCSD one. It's safer. It's guaranteed by things that are not guaranteed in the UCSD pension. So this is one you want to maximize and make sure you're taking it the right way. When should I apply for Social Security benefits? That's the final question we'll answer today. And then the bottom two, I will go over in advanced Social Security, where we sit down and we actually do a couple, let's call it analysis, or we'll do some simulations on different Social Security. And I will share with you my opinion on Social Security. I'm lecturing on this for almost 2 decades now, has changed ever so slightly. Some of it has to do with laws that were enacted back in 2016, eliminating the what was called the file and suspend. But it's changed also based on lifestyle and the ability to enjoy certain funds earlier in your life versus later when you're less mobile. And I'll go through those more in the next presentation. It doesn't mean I've completely reversed on everything, but I've modified. I think is probably the best description of my view on Social Security. After watching so many of our clients go through the analysis and what it takes to have the type of retirement you really want to have. So understanding the value of Social Security, and will Social Security be there for me? OASD Trust Fund is still growing. So this is a result as of last December. I don't have the 2024 because obviously we're not there yet. But in 2023, the OASDI Trust Fund balance was $2.777 trillion. It's a lot of money. Just to think of that in context, obviously each trillion is 1,000 billion. So there's a lot of money in reserve. In 2023, the results, total income, 1.222 trillion, total expenditures. Interestingly enough, this is the first year in the history of myself giving this presentation, which I've been giving this since 2009, that I've seen a net decrease in assets. The prediction for many years was that there was going to be this crossover in 2014, whereby there would be a net decrease in assets every year from then on out until Social Security is shored up somehow. Hasn't been the case. The 2023 was literally the first time we saw a net decrease in assets in my career of giving this presentation. So we ended up with roughly 2.77 trillion. A balance on 12/31/23 because 22.1 billion on 2.777 trillion is a drop in the bucket. That being said, most of you right now, here, let me go through the long-term projections. Long-term projections without reform, benefits fall to 80% in 2034. I think they're eventually going to come out and move this out a little bit further, probably closer to 2040, simply because the prediction, looking down at the calendar year picture there, you can see they predicted the blue line being costs, the red line being incomes. They made an incorrect prediction back in the 2010, 2011 that costs would significantly outpace income. And that just simply has not been the case. And then they predicted in 2033 that they would drop down to 80%. And in long term, past 2034, 79%, and then 2092, 74%. So Social Security, it's not in as much trouble as you think because there are a lot of solutions. And what are those solutions? Well, from a reform perspective, all right, you could increase the maximum earnings subject to Social Security, which is currently $168,600 600 in 2024. Well, here's the news. They do that every year. When I started doing this presentation, the Social Security wage max was somewhere around 105,000 a year. That's already gone up by 50% in the 15 years I've been giving this presentation, and that will continue to go up. Raising the normal retirement age has also gone up from 66 to 67. Originally, Social Security, when it started the program in 1935, the full retirement age was 65, and that has been moved out several times. I would be shocked if for Generation X, or at least the millennials, full retirement age is moved out to 70 or later. Lower benefits for future retirees. To me, this is not really politically palatable. If you're, and we're seeing it during this election cycle, everyone claiming that everyone else is going to lower benefits for future retirees. It's just really not politically feasible to do that. So what you do is you end up raising the cost of Social Security by either higher taxes or moving ages out. And then the final, reduced cost of living adjustments. This went through Congress a couple of years ago and it did not pass. Right now, the COLAs are based on what's called CPIW, the Consumer Price Index, for working individuals. The proposal was that working individual consumer prices don't really match a retiree, so they wanted to change it to something called chain CPI, and that got shot down because all the different special interest groups said, no, let's not do that, and it didn't go through. Bottom line here, for baby boomers and probably the leading edge of Generation X, your benefits are really not likely to be affected by Social Security. All right, so that answers our first question. Let's go to a couple insights here real quick. Social Security, and this is what's really important. Social Security is inflation-protected income. You paid the premium every check, so be smart about how and when to collect. When I say you've paid in by every check, many of you may or may not know, but you pay 6.2% on every paycheck, or annualized, I should say, 6.2% annualized. So if that's like $100,000 a year, that's simple math. It's $6,200 comes out of your check. And your employer, if you are a W-2 employee, matches that at 6.2% for 12.4% roughly of your gross income that goes into Social Security up to that Social Security wage max of $168,000 and change. If you are self-employed, as I am, then you pay both sides of that equation. So you pay the employee side and the employer side. Many of you will know this as your FICA taxes, which also include Medicare tax, which is another 1.45% from yourself if you're a W-2 employee, and 2.9% if you are self-employed. And those are your Social Security and Medicare wage taxes. Big difference there is that the Medicare tax is unlimited. If you make $1 million a year, you're paying the 1.45% all the way up to $1 million on that, and your employer is matching that. Whereas the Social Security, it would stop at $168,000. Many people say that's unfair, that you should have to pay Social Security wage tax all the way up. But you got to remember your benefit is capped in Social Security, and I will show you how it's means tested anyways for lower income people. Medicare is certainly means tested in your premiums for your Part B and your Part D. So it's a little different animal, even though people often lump in Social Security and Medicare when they think of benefits from the government. There are significant differences, and if you have questions on that, I would encourage you to come to the Medicare presentation or overview that I do in about a week and a half here. So one of the biggest benefits of Social Security is simply it's income you can't outlive because of the cost of living adjustment. And you can see in the bottom there, I'm assuming a 2.6% cost of living adjustment, which is almost right on what this year will be. But if you recall, 2 years ago in 2023, the Social Security adjustment was 8.9%. It was almost 9% because of the rampant inflation we had. That is the difference, a huge difference, not just one difference, but a huge difference between your UCSD pension and Social Security, quote, I'll call it a pension because it is a pension. All right, so I think it's a really important concept, so I'll repeat it. Your UCSD pension, right, that's determined by the HAPC and all that, which is the highest average personal compensation, I believe is what that stands for. I'll be doing a presentation on that here in a couple of weeks as well. But the most important part of Social Security is that you get the lockstep dollar for dollar inflation all the way up to high inflation years. With your UCSD pension above 2%, I believe you get 0.25% for every 1% of inflation. So in a highly inflationary year, like 9%, you're getting half the inflation adjustment that you get within Social Security. And it's income you cannot outlive. Now, I know you say UCSD pension can't outlive that either, but I would ask you, and again, I'm not asking you to exchange any pension from UCSD in. I'm just, if you had two different pensions to choose from, and one had 40 million taxpayers behind it and was severely underfunded, and the other one had 340 million taxpayers behind it and was somewhat underfunded, which one would you prefer to have? I'm guessing most people would say, I want the 10x people in the country and the full face of the United States government protecting my pension over a California pension. So again, that's not to poo-poo the UCSD retirement plan. I think it's a very good one. It's a very rich one, but there are going to be down the road, in my opinion, some significant challenges because the UCSD retirement plan is much more underfunded than Social Security is. Bottom line, if your monthly check today is $2,000, and in 20 years at a 2.6% annual cost of living, you're going to receive almost $660,000 in benefits. If you live 30 years, it's over 1.1 million in benefits. It's one of the things I tell people often is that an often misunderstood concept of Social Security is how large that bucket is for you, especially if you have longevity in your life. From a monthly standpoint, if it's $2,000 a day with a COLAs of 2.6, in 30 years, your checks on a monthly basis are $4,300, 20 years, $3,300. So again, it's an income that is inflation adjusted that you cannot outlive. So how much can you, so now we're going to move on to our second question. How much can I expect to receive? Well, let me stop there for a second and check the chat. All right, no questions yet? Any questions before we move on to the second of three questions that we're going to be answering today? You can also unmute yourself. Feel free to do that if you'd like to. All right, nothing so far? Okay, great. I will move forward then. So how much can I expect to receive in retirement? Well, it's based on two things. It's how much you earned over your working career and the age at which you apply for benefits. All right, so how much you earned over your working career is really tough to go back and adjust, right? I will tell you that Social Security is based off of your top 35 years of earnings. So if you have not been paying into Social Security for 35 years, one of the most simple and best ways to increase your Social Security benefit is to simply continue to work. Now, I know that answer is not the one that everyone wants to hear, but it is a potential way to continue to increase your Social Security benefit, particularly if you, if you have not reached that 35 years. Secondly, the age at which you apply for benefits. That's incredibly important because the age at which you apply for benefits, there's something called the actuarial reduction. If you start your benefits at 62, if you start your benefits at full retirement age, you get what's called your full PIA or primary insurance amount. And if you wait to age 70, and we'll go over this a little bit more in the next presentation, every year beyond, let's say full retirement age of 67, you get an 8% increase in your Social Security plus the cost of living adjustment. Let's just take a step back real quick and think about it. 8% plus a cost of living adjustment that's average 2.6. That's a 10.6% rate of return that you don't pay any taxes on, that's fully guaranteed by the United States government and becomes a pension for you as the beneficiary of Social Security. What other strategies are you aware of out there where you can get 10.6% rate of return with zero risk? And I'll throw in a kicker on top of it. When you do claim your benefit, you don't pay any California state income tax on the earnings. And at the federal level, you only pay 85 cents on the dollar. So 15 cents out of 100 for every dollar you make is not taxed. So it's tax beneficial at the federal level and tax beneficial at the state level in California. Not all states don't tax Social Security, but California does not. It's the one thing that I'm aware of that California does not tax. So again, two things you think about when your benefit, or excuse me, what your benefit will depend on is how much you earned over your working career, i.e. how close were you to the Social Security wage max or were you over it, and then the age at which you apply. So simply the calculation is 62, each year's earnings are tallied up an index for inflation, highest 35 years, as I just said. AIME is divided by 3 bed points to determine your primary insurance amount. And that's the amount you're going to receive. And then each year, whether you claim or don't claim, your benefit is adjusted for the cost of living adjustment. So here's just a sample. You don't need to know any of this because this is something Social Security has a calculator when you go in there or you go online and they'll calculate it for you. But you may have heard me say the 3 bend points. And you can see down there, the first bend point, you get the amount multiplied by 0.9, then 0.32, and then 0.15. So that those higher earning people are getting less dollar for dollar or incrementally less benefit for earning more money. They're just simply paying more tax. So that is the way Social Security is means tested. Whether you agree with that or not, I'm not here to debate that. I just want to make it clear that that is exactly how Social Security is wage tested. All right, so that's all good to know. But again, Ryan, why should I wait on Social Security? And hopefully you're kind of understanding now that I'm a big proponent on delaying Social Security. That doesn't mean you take less income during your 60s when you're still mobile and you want to travel and do all these things. I just think there's a better way to go about it. So if you claim before age 70 or even before your primary insurance amount, it's called early claiming, right? And benefits could be withheld if you work. There's something called the earnings test. And prior to full retirement age, let's say your full retirement age is 67, if you claim your benefit prior to full retirement age and you're making over the earnings test amount, your entire benefit will go away. Now, does that mean you never get it back? No, it means that your benefit continues to increase, but it will be reduced or taken completely away. So when should I apply for benefits? Well, here are some of the main factors to consider, right? Health status, life expectancy, your future need for income, and whether or not you plan to work, right? I just mentioned, why does it matter if I plan to work or not? Because again, if you're before or prior to your full retirement age, then you will be subject to the earnings test and potentially could have your benefit removed. And then survivor needs. What are survivor needs? Well, that's if one spouse passes away and there's a benefit. Let's say that spouse was the max earning spouse, whether it's male or female, whatever, however you want to do it. That survivor, if their benefit is lower and it's collected at the right time, they could get 100% of their deceased spouse benefit. Survivor benefits are very complicated. It took me, a long time to really nail them down, but it's something I'll go over in the next presentation, which tends to be a little bit longer than 101. Bottom line, will it be enough to live on retirement? No. What I will tell you is the average retiree in the United States, Social Security accounts for somewhere between 35 and 40% of their retirement income. So that's something I think if you have a financial person or a CPA that you take advice from, or your best friend, or even your spouse, and you're not considering how Social Security works into your retirement distribution plan, I would say you are missing a really, really big, important part of retirement and how it gets incorporated into your pension, your 403B distributions, your 457 distributions, and all the other things that we may have in our life from a standpoint of retirement income. All right, so real quick, and then I'll probably wrap up and open to questions here, and I'll bring out the whiteboard for 2 seconds just to go over a little bit what I go over in the next presentation. But here are the full retirement ages. If your year of birth is 43 to 54, which most of you by now are beyond that, 66, 50, if you're 54 to 60, it steps up by 2 months every year until you get to 1960 and later, and then at 67. Full retirement age, as a reminder, is the age at which you can take your Social Security benefit and not be subject to the earnings test, which means you can make as much money. You can be Warren Buffett, make hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and you can still get your full Social Security benefit without being subject to the earnings test. I do have a question from Cheryl. Thank you for the question. If I wanted to take Social Security and not work and just have my pension and Social Security, would my husband's earnings be taken into account for the earnings test? If you are a married filing joint, I believe the answer is yes. I would want to verify that though, because I'm trying to think about how you would separate. You would not want to file married filing separate because that does not give you a benefit. But I'm pretty like 90% sure if you're married filing joint, and because you have joint income, right? You're not broken out individually in your, I want to say yes. The better question, Cheryl, from my standpoint would be, why would you want to take your Social Security early? If you have a pension and your husband continues to work, why not delay that Social Security? And so now you're kind of jumping into my strategy. Why not, instead of taking Social Security, being either subject to the earnings test or lowering your future Social Security benefit, right? Which, remember, we talked about the 8% DRCs and the non-taxation in California federally. Why not instead, if you want that income, just take it out of your 403B or your 457? Those assets are subject to market risk. You pay fees, pay someone like myself to help you manage it, or you pay Fidelity and you pay their expense ratios, subject to all the risk. Why not just start drawing those down early and increasing? So basically, instead of having $2,000 or $3,000 Social Security benefit, take $2,000 a month out of your 403B, 457. If you have it, again, these are strategies, but and I don't know your individual strategy. I'm not speaking specifically to you, but I'm getting into what my strategy when clients speak to me about their retirement distributions. These are the things that I talk to with them. All right, so let's continue on. So you guys understand what full retirement age now. So here's just a sample. All right, if let's see, if you apply at age 62, and I'm just going to stay with a full retirement age 67, you can see your benefit is only 70%, meaning it's 30% less than what it would be if you waited till age 67. You can go down the list. Even if 1 year early, you're cutting yourself by, what, 6.7% in income there. And if you plan 2 years early, it's pretty significant, right? It's nearly, 13.3%. Whereas if you wait to 67, you get 100%. Well, what if I wait a little bit longer? Well, if I'm 67, that's my full retirement age. It's boxed on the right over here. I wait, I get that 108%, 116, 124. Excuse me. But that omits the cost of living adjustment. All right. So here's how you estimate your Social Security benefit. If you are, so what my team and I do, we do a free Social Security analysis for anyone within the Retirement or Maritime Association. Anyone that comes to these IIGs, I'm happy to do one. You need your Social Security statement. All right. Oh, I got another question here. Let's see if that's the response. Oh, Cheryl, thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for the question. Here's how you go get, I think the easiest is just socialsecurity.gov. You can actually just type in ssa.gov and go to estimate your retirement, push that button, and then you'll get what your, and if you are going to submit to me I don't need all the figures, 62, 67, 70. I need what's called your PIA, your primary insurance amount. I am going to stop the share on this screen, and I'm going to pop over to another, just so you guys can see. This is a questionnaire here, right? So see if I can get the other one. So this is a sample questionnaire that I use to get the information I need to run. Obviously, name, date of birth, age on the nearest birthday for both. And then this is what I'm talking about right here, is primary insurance amount. I have had people put in here $1 million, $2 million, and of course they're talking about their life insurance benefit and not their primary insurance amount. I need the primary insurance amount, which comes from your Social Security statement. Life expectancy, if we all knew how long we were going to live, right? We'd get life insurance the day before we died and pass it on to our family. We just do an estimation here. And then all these other questions are really important because it's about earnings, tests, this and the other. And then you'll see some of these questions down here and be like, well, why do you need to know my pension and investments and stuff? Because if I'm going to make a recommendation on what you should do, especially when you're going to the most important part of your life, the time of your life when you're making retirement distributions, then you really kind of have to look at the big picture. So that's just a sample of the questionnaire. It's one page. It's really easy, and it allows us to build out a Social Security presentation for you. All right, so back to the presentation. And I believe we were somewhere in here. So can everyone see that presentation before someone just say yes for me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Great. All right, so why delay benefits? And then we got 2 slides here. Then I'm going to stop and go to the whiteboard and give you a little sneak peek of what about I talk about in part 2. Delaying benefits. Let's focus on if your primary insurance amount is 67 here, okay? So that means at 67, I get 100% of my benefit, all right? And if my benefit was primary insurance amount is 2,800 and 2.6% cost of living adjustment, all right? And these 2 columns on the right are really interesting because these is where all the mistakes are made from beneficiaries. I just spoke to a gentleman up here in the Reno Tahoe area, and he was making the exact same mistake that I'm going to encourage you guys not to make. And he was looking at the benefit without a cost of living adjustment. And so he was looking at that 2,800 at 67 or whatever his benefit was, not realizing the benefit's actually going to be over 10% higher because the COLAs will have compounded, right? Significantly. And then the further you go out in the quote unquote X years, you can see how much larger the benefit becomes. Whereby if he claimed at 62, he's looking at 1960 a month, and he claims at 70, it's over 100% larger benefit. And remember, I've already discussed with you how much better a Social Security dollar is, or how much more valuable a Social Security dollar is for you than a dollar from real estate, or a dollar from your pension, or a dollar from your IRA, 403B, 457. All right, we got another question. Chris, some of the arguments I've heard is take Social Security early, but they say that they will get more money on a crossover point. Discuss here, yeah. So the biggest fallacy, Chris, with that is no one ever takes into account taxes, right? So I take my Social Security at 62, go back here one, and I'm taking the 1960 a month. I don't get 1960 a month. I gotta pay taxes on it, right? So let's say my marginal tax rate's, 25%. So I only pay 15 out of 100 or 15 out of 100 cents on the dollar is tax-free at federal level. You don't pay California, but still that 1960 is going to be more like 1,700. And then I take that, and my crossover point moves back. And just simply what a crossover point is, folks, is if I take my benefit at 62 versus 70, I'm getting all these benefits during the time frame from 60 to 70. Let's say it's $100,000 in benefits or more. Let's say it's $250,000. How long do I have to be taking a benefit at a higher amount later on? And when does that crossover appear? And I'll tell you, most of the time, if you wait to 70, the crossover appears around 78 to 77 years old. As a rule of thumb, if you include a cost of living adjustment. If you don't, it's usually in the early 80s, and that's part of the big fallacy. Bottom line is, if you're going to live past 77, you will earn more in Social Security from a cost of living adjustment and waiting. Here's the caveat. Who is your Social Security benefit for? Is it just for yourself? Or do you have a spouse that you also need to consider? And that's where the biggest mistakes are made, is people think of it in the context of, I'm maximizing my own benefit, but I'm not thinking about in the context of my family and my spouse. And that's where the maximization really becomes, especially the larger the disparity of the age between the spouses. So why delay benefits at age 70? If you claim at 62 versus claiming at 70, yes, we saw that 2407 versus 4263. By the time you get to 80, though, 3,100 versus 5,500 on a $2,800 primary insurance amount, that's a huge difference. And then if you somehow live to be in the 90s, then it's almost double. All right. So how can you maximize your benefit? Again, this is the stuff that we're going to go through. So I'm going to stop my screen share here. I'm going to go to the whiteboard. All right. And I'm just going to share a couple thoughts here real quick. All right. So this is your retirement in its simplest form. And I did take beginning painting in college. I wasn't very good at it. I'm not a professional artist, so please save the jokes. I get it. I'm bad. And plus, it's really hard on a keypad. I don't have a mouse to draw. But what is this? Well, simply, this is where most of you are at right now. This is the A. That's supposed to be an A. This is the accumulation phase of your financial life. This is your financial life, okay? This is Joe Triton or Jody Triton or whatever you want to do. You're accumulating assets, and you're putting money away into your 403B. You're putting money away in your I could draw. Oh gosh, I changed off the pencil. You're putting money in your 457. you're accumulating a pension benefit, you are accumulating a Social Security benefit, and then you get to this point, and this is the most important point, and yes, this is my term, I made it up, and it's called the IP, and there's an inflection point of how your retirement's going to go. And that inflection point is the decisions you make right as you're getting towards retirement. Do you leave all of your right here, and you're literally getting ready to walk out the door? I'm really struggling today with my drawing, sorry. If you make the decision right here, put all of your money in NVIDIA and tech stocks right as you go into retirement, and it doesn't work out, your retirement now is this dotted line. Okay, this is your distribution phase of your life. Right, I should put over here the D, I, and just leave it at S. Right, distribution phase of your life, and now your retirement's on a totally another line because you made a big mistake in the inflection point. I would also argue that there's a decision here about Social Security, right? And that decision, because that Social Security pension is worth well over $1 million for most of you. And you can also be on this same line because you don't make the correct Social Security decision, right? Or you could potentially extend the line out a year because you make an excellent decision with Social Security. And you tag in your retirement distributions with the right decisions at the same time, right? So that's my basic on, things to think about. I'll do one last share screen on a new whiteboard. All right. Well, how do we get? Oh, there's just delete. No, I didn't want to do that. All right, you guys can all forgive me later for my bad work here. See, Vanya, what happens when I claim that I suddenly am really good at doing this again? All right, I got rid of my toolbar. Anybody know how to get it back in Zoom?
I'm not quite sure. Maybe escape? I don't know how that would help.
Yeah, you know what? It doesn't matter because I'm going to go on it. So what I'll just say to you, we can all just imagine real quick. Let's pretend like there's 4 big boxes up at the top, just square boxes. And down below is a mailbox. And that mailbox is your retirement money. That's your monthly paychecks down at the bottom, all right, in retirement. And those big 4 boxes up at top, they're filled with P, stands for your pension, Social Security, right? Your 403B, 457, DCP, whatever it happens to be, all rolled into an IRA for simplicity. And then maybe you have a savings account or a trust account, an investment account, or maybe investment property, whatever it happens to be. And you're taking from all of these different boxes and you are creating a retirement distribution plan. And you want to do that in the most efficient, safest, and least costly way. And you're going to have to come back, since I stopped I got rid of my toolbar, but, or maybe oh, there it is. I got it back. Hey, Vanya, you have to go back up there and click on it.
Good to know.
We have a
Thanks.
couple minutes left. You just go back up and click on whiteboard again. All right, we learned something today, or at least I did. Hopefully you guys learned a little something too with the, so here are my boxes, right? Remember I said the mailboxes down here with, again, no comments on the drawing, please. All right, so this is your mailbox money in retirement, okay? And you've got all these sources, and I'm not gonna draw all the arrows just to save time, but you get that thing. And like I said, it's pension, it's Social Security, right? It's I just realized I could draw with my hands. It's gonna be a lot faster. And then let's just call it a trust account, right? And so all of this is going into your money. My argument is this money right here is guaranteed by full faith and credit of the United States government, right? So let's go USA, USA. We got that check mark. That makes it better than this one, and this one. So we got USA guarantee here. I'll put the guarantees down here. You got USA guaranteed. You got 100% survivorship for surviving spouse. Great. You have taxes. Much better than 3 out of the 4 up there. Potentially in this trust account, you could have some tax-free income, but for the most part, Social Security taxes is much better. All right. And you have COLAs, or inflation protection, at a much better rate. And then the things that people don't think about, I'm going to put right over here under this arrow, are fees and risk. there risk in the pension? Absolutely there is. Do you see that risk? Nope. But what if the California taxpayer one day says that they don't want to put $330 million into the UCRP? No, but it's guaranteed, and then well, you never know. It's guaranteed until it isn't. Just like my dad's pension at American Airlines was guaranteed until it wasn't. I won't talk about Social Security right now, but I'll go over here as IRA. Are your 8-10% returns guaranteed every year in your IRA? I think we can all agree that's a big no. Just reference 2022. Same thing with the trust account, right? No and no. So from a risk standpoint, the best risk is right here in Social Security, right? Now from a fee standpoint, how much does it cost for you to get checks from your IRA, from your trust account? You say, oh, nothing. I'm an index fund investor. I'm a Fidelity investor. I got news for you. There are fees, okay? Your pension, are there fees? Technically not, but there are, because if you go read on the UCRP, you got a chief investment advisor and all these things that take out of the returns of the overall fund, and that's how they get paid. So there really are fees there. What's Social Security again? What are the fees? Oh, that's right, zero. Zero to be sent a check every month in your mailbox. All right, so I will clear all my drawings. I'm going to stop my share, and I'm going to open up for questions